If you've been keeping up with Real Housewives of Atlanta season 17, then you've seen newbie K.Michelle and OG Porsha Williams get into a little bit of a spat over a question that Porsha asked K.Michelle, seemingly innocent question. But it seems like K.Michelle is not ready to let it go. And the question is why? Is she really upset about what Porsha asked her? Or is there something bigger lying beneath the surface? Well, y'all, honey child, let me tell you, word on the street is it's over a man. Yep. K. Michelle and Porsha are fighting over a man. We're going to get into who that man is, what the underlying issue is, right after my intro plays. You guys stick with me through this little intro. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, like it, hype it, and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. Everyone knows the best conversations happen in hair salons. And guess what, beauty? It's your appointment time. So grab your drink, grab your wine, grab your friends, and let's talk. My name is Tanya. I'm your host, and this is Sweet Tea. Thank you for joining me here in this suite. If this is your first time here, go ahead and put a 1 in the chat so that I can welcome you to the suite and to the channel. If you're a returning beauty, go ahead and put a 2 in the chat so I can thank you for coming back. Either way it goes, I'm glad you guys are here, okay? So let's get right into this story. So y'all, we all know Porsha asked K.Michelle if she'd had a miscarriage when K.Michelle was describing to she and Cynthia and Phaedra about how the sofa was wet when she went to stand up, right? Unbeknownst to Porsha, it was really Kay's butt that was leaking, okay? But it was a very appropriate question and a very good assumption, especially coming from Porsha Williams, because we all know she could have guessed just about anything. But if someone's telling you that they're sitting on the sofa, they don't know what's happening, they can't feel anything, and all of a sudden the sofa is wet, as a woman, it's perfectly reasonable to assume or to ask if they'd had a miscarriage, right? Either that or did you pee on yourself? You know, are you experiencing incontinence? Right? So no one would just jump to, oh my God, her butt must have been leaking. So it was a definitely a very appropriate assumption. Okay. And I don't think Porsha meant anything by it. But even though K.Michelle took issue with it and Porsha went on to apologize to her, it seems like K.Michelle is still having an issue with it. She's still on Twitter or X tweeting about it. She didn't call Porsha a bimbo. She didn't call the girl dumb, all kind of stuff. And so recently, Porsha did an interview, a sit down with Carlos King, who was the former producer of Real Housewives of Atlanta. The same Carlos King that they said told Phaedra the secret that Porsha repeated that got Phaedra kicked off the show for several seasons. Yeah, that Carlos King. So they have history. Okay. They go way back. So she sat down with Carlos King and Carlos King asked her about it. Here's the clip.
K.Michelle did do tweets even after the episode aired where we saw the episode end and it seemed like y'all hugged it out, everything is good. Yeah. But then the tweets started to happen afterwards where she sort of is doubling down on she doesn't trust you. What do you have to say about it?
Shout out to Carlos King in Reality with the King. Television. He has a podcast here on YouTube. You guys can go watch the full video. But let's hear Porsha's response to the question, okay?
That's another situation where someone has decided that this is the route they need to take. I don't think this is the route that K.Michelle needs to take or has to take. I think it's the wrong road. But at the end of the day, if you have been watching the show and then you are finally on the show, you decide this is how you're going to enter, this is how I'll make my mark, then it is what it is. This is the game she decides to play. And I only say that because whether or not, and I will say, when I said it to her, I had first asked her, was it okay? Did she want to openly speak about her situation? Number two, the reason why I asked her, did she want to speak about it on camera, is because I didn't know specifically what it was. No one told us. Even when I text K.Michelle prior to that scene at the nail shop, I was like, hey, you're in the hospital, are you okay? She said, oh yeah, I had to have a procedure or whatever. She never told me what it was for. So I had no idea which part of her was, a problem. I had no idea. So, of course, as a woman, I know we making TV. It is what it is. I'm not gonna just sit here and start asking her about what she was in the hospital for, what procedure, if she's not ready. So I wanted to first say, hey, are you good talking about it? Because at the end of the day, I don't care if this is our job to speak about personal stuff or not. I don't care if she talked about it in a scene with her doctor on camera or not. If I then need to pivot the conversation away from specifics, I'm gonna do that. But she said, yeah, I'm okay, yeah. And she proceeded to tell us what was going on. Unfortunately, she was burying the lead. I mean, she went on to the story for a while before she even mentioned it was her body.
So, basically what Porsha is saying is K.Michelle knew who the queen bee was, and if she knew if she wanted to dethrone the queen bee, exactly who she needed to come for. That's what Porsha is saying. K.Michelle chose to come for me because I am the queen bee. Unfortunately, she going down the wrong road, and that's what Porsha is saying. Okay, she's pretty much saying that Kay is doing this and she's dragging this on for a storyline. But K.Michelle would have to be really, really, really just straight up crazy to do that, because it's making her look crazy. Because I believe the public consensus is that we don't believe Porsha meant anything by it, right? But what we have forgotten, and K.Michelle spoke on this in her interview, her latest interview with Jason Lee. What we have forgotten is that they used to mess with the same man. Yeah. K.Michelle and Porsha used to mess with the same man, and we should have known that this beef has more to do with this man than it does with the question, okay? And the man in question, the man in common, I should say, is freaking R.Kelly. Let me get my wine on the Friday, okay? The man in question is freaking R.Kelly. Yeah. Y'all remember Porsha wrote about that in her book? What was the book called? In Pursuit of Porsha or something like that? And the difference is, and this is where the real tea comes in, okay? Porsha considers herself a victim, while K.Michelle spoke about her relationship with R.Kelly. Even to this day, she doesn't consider herself a victim, and she has totally different memories of R.Kelly. So, let me take my sip. Y'all know I got clips for y'all, right? You know I got clips. If this is your first time in the suite, honey, I always provide the receipts. Okay, so I'll be taking my time, getting the little video clips, editing them down, hoping I don't get no copyright strikes, because all the videos that we do watch here are for research and content purposes. Okay, I'm not trying to. That's what it is. Okay, Copyright Act of whatever it is. I'm gonna put it in the description. Y'all, please don't strike my video. Okay. And so anyways, I got the receipts and I saw this article. So this was on Media Takeout. So Media Takeout apparently has a trusted insider in production. And they're saying that there was a massive season-defining storyline. Because I'm like, this is the 4th episode, and it's kind of like, okay, move the show along. What's the storyline going to be? We know what Pinky's is. We know what Kelly's is. We kind of know what Portia's is. Phaedra don't really have one. Cynthia got her tequila line. But it's like, okay, what? Kay's a new girl. She's pursuing the country music, but where is the drama, right? Like, where is the major storyline of the season? Apparently, the major storyline of the season centers around a shocking discovery that both Porsha and K.Michelle were supposedly, allegedly involved with the incarcerated R&B singer R.Kelly at the exact same time. Do you hear me? At the exact same time. Okay. Yeah. The drama reportedly exploded during a group trip when the conversation turned to past industry relationships. Y'all know hoes love to do that. A hoe love to get together and talk about her past sex life. I got a couple of friends and I love them to death, but they had their hoe phases and it's like this they heyday. So they love to get together and talk about who they was doing back in the day. So apparently this is what they were doing, talking about their past industry relationships. And it's already public knowledge that Porsha spoke with authorities about her experiences with R.Kelly, while K.Michelle, on the other hand, has often referred to him as a mentor, and she has completely different memories of him than what the ladies in Surviving R.Kelly and all of them have reported. Okay, so the ladies realized that their timelines on their storyline were kind of like running the same. So some think it's important, to show the different ways that the women process grooming and their whole experience with R. Kelly. So, but this is the key though. Both of them, if we gonna get real, both of them were messing with him when he was married. He was always married. Okay, he was always married. So this ain't Simon ain't the first married man that Porsha done mess with. She was doing this way back in her 20s, because Porsha was she was like in her early 20s when she was messing with R. Kelly. And K.Michelle probably was too, because they are actually about the same age, although it's kind of like wishy-washy how old K.Michelle really is. I was trying to figure it out and I saw like 3 different years listed for her age, but I think it's safe to say that she's around 44 years old, same as Porsha, right? And so Porsha was in her early 20s when she had her experience with R. Kelly, and K.Michelle was right around the same age. So Porsha, on the other hand, she says that she was barely out of her teens. No, bitch, you was in your mid-20s. 24 is mid-20s. That's not barely out of your teens. And then not long after this, she went and married Cordell. So, and she had been the video girl and all of that stuff. So Portia's trying to make it seem like she's a victim. And I'm not saying that she's not, but for it to be reported that she was barely out of her teens, like, come on. And so she reportedly gets emotional on camera about it and describing how she felt used and exploited by the singer. And she views herself as a survivor of his predatory behavior. While K.Michelle, on the other hand, she, the twist that left the rest of the cast speechless was K.Michelle allegedly doubled down on her positive memories, right? So here you have them both bonding or admitting that they both used to date R. Kelly, and then Porsha goes on to talk about how she was a victim and she's a survivor and all this, and Kay is like, well, I have all positive memories of him. You could imagine the tension that would cause just in the conversation if Porsha really does consider herself a survivor while Kay has all positive memories of him. That's not to discount Porsha's memories, but it's just to say that I didn't have that same experience, right? Which is kind of the same thing that was happening on Love and Hip Hop to begin with. And then they flat out called K.Michelle a liar. So, that is what that is. But so it's a little bit different, but, kind of the same. So either way it goes, you can understand why there would be some tension, right? If Porsha truly views herself as a victim or a survivor, and K.Michelle is like, oh, well, he was cool to me. Robert is cool. I never experienced that. It could make you feel like it could make your feelings feel invalidated. If it was Porsha, it would definitely do that. But at the same time, if Porsha can't necessarily validate Kay's feelings, it can make her feel the same way. So that's where the tension and stuff would come in at, right? And so, and Kay also says that she felt love from R. Kelly, and she felt protected by R. Kelly. And in her interview with Jason Lee, she also describes the period of her life when she was being, quote unquote, allegedly abused by Memphis, and that when they let her out of her contract, R. Kelly was the one that scooped her back up. It was kind of like she had so much talent, like, I want to work with her. And so he kind of like took her under his wing and showed her a different side of the music industry, or so she thought. But K.Michelle, and this was years ago when this stuff first started going down, when he first started, when the alleged victims first started coming out and talking about it, K.Michelle did an interview way back then on The Real where she talked about her experience, and she still holds his musical legacy in high regard. Okay, so the standoff between K.Michelle and Porsha turned into a full-blown argument, according to the sources, okay, which producers had to break up. Now, y'all saw in this last show, both of them said that they were reform crash outs. I guess reform was not necessarily the right word. Maybe they were crash outs on pause. The baby can come out anytime. We can get it popping. And apparently that's what they did. K.Michelle and Porsha Williams got to fussing and fighting over R.Kelly. Producers had to break it up. And when the realization hit that Kelly was seeing both of them while he was married at the same time, it turned into this weird, toxic jealousy. Okay, according to a source. K.Michelle seemed visibly upset that Porsha was in the mix back then. And it was wild. Someone said it was wild to see two beautiful, successful women nearly come to blows over a man who was currently serving life in prison for the most heinous crimes imaginable. Okay, the cast reportedly is divided on the storyline, and some think it's important to show the different ways women process grooming and abuse, while others, like Phaedra Parks, reportedly thinks the show is getting too dark. That's because Phaedra is fake. She don't want to get too real. Okay, so in her 2021 memoir, The Pursuit of Porsha, Real Housewives of Atlanta star Porsha Williams revealed that she had a frightening and manipulative sexual relationship with R.Kelly. She met Kelly through a mutual friend, expecting career opportunities. She said she flew out to Chicago. He showed her around the house, then locked her in the room for hours. And then when he came in, she felt like she just had to have sex with him. Okay. Sound to me like Porsha was ready to hunch R.Kelly, like she said she was hunching everybody that came to her house when she was a kid. That's what it sounds like to me. Y'all want to hear the story? Here's Porsha talking about it when her book came out a few years ago. And baby, Porsha was definitely prepped for these interviews. She had done some public relations training and all of that, because I have never seen Porsha Williams act like this, talk like this, or be this consistent in her story, because this clip is from a different interview. But I saw another interview about the same topic when she was on the Tamron Hall show, and she was wearing the same dress. I'm assuming it was probably like a press tour that day. And baby, when I tell you she had her speech memorized, she had it memorized. Here's the clip.
I didn't realize that you knew him, and boy, oh boy, you got yourself out of there fast, because you talk about that you went to his house, you talk about being locked in the room and not really completely understanding what was going on until one night. You talk about, you tell the story. One night you were there, locked in the room, and then you heard these noises outside the door.
Yeah. You know, in writing this book, I do talk about the faces of men who have sexually abused me and taken advantage of me. And not just a young Porsha, but young in mentality, a warped sense of who I was. I didn't know who I was. I had no self-worth. I did not love myself enough to pull myself out of these dangerous situations with men and predators.
So he
was one of them.
Yeah,
and I wanted to name him in the book because I'm a victim. And at this moment, I've healed enough. I'm now strong enough to speak on it. So that's why in the book, I go into detail.
You do.
To walk you through each moment that I ended up in that situation.
I was worried for you.
Yeah.
When I was reading this part, I was worried for you that either you were going to get beat up. Would you consider you were raped?
Well, no. But I definitely was held in a mental state where I felt trapped, for sure. Absolutely. I felt danger at that time, for sure. You know, he was named in the book, his story was told in the book, because he just happens to be a celebrity. In the book, I talk about accounts where it happened with other men. And through my life, when I was writing this book, I looked at my journey and I thought about how many times I ended up in abusive situations and toxic relationships. And that pattern was all had to do with me not knowing my power or my worth.
So did you break the pattern with Simon?
I broke the pattern after my divorce. When you realize you have lost everything, because my identity was being a wife, and that was it. When I lost that, I felt like I had lost all of what Porsha was. But fortunately for me, when I lost everything, money, business, a husband, all that, what was left standing was Porsha. So I worked on myself and I rebuilt who I was and what I thought of me. And so as the years continued, I've just been doing more self-care, more mental care of myself. And when I met Simon, he had been doing the same, and so we matched.
Porsha Williams is full of crap. Porsha, don't get me wrong, Porsha is entertaining. I think she's funny. She's a beautiful woman, but Porsha Williams is full of shit. This is an interview that she was doing when she was on that book tour. You see how she cut that lady off? The lady tried to cut her off rather than ask her a question. And Porsha was like, wait a minute, let me get this out, because this is what I rehearsed. If you mess me up, I'm going to forget what I'm saying, because it ain't really true. I got to stay on track, okay? Porsha Williams is full of shit. Porsha Williams wants to act like, so in her book, I named, or I told stories of many men who took advantage of me sexually and preyed on me sexually. And that may be true, but Porsha Williams also said in her interview with Carlos King that she was humping everybody that came to her house. Cousins, friends, whoever, boys, girls, whoever. She was ready to hump whomever. So my question is, first of all, where was Miss Diane when Porsha was humping everybody? Okay. It's one thing as a kid, you hump one or two people. I mean, personally, I don't remember humping anybody, but I know a couple of cousins that got caught humping once or twice. But they were very, very young. But Porsha's like, I was humping everybody that came to the house, boys, girls, cousins, whoever. You know, where was her mother when she was humping everybody and was becoming so interested in sex at such a young age, to the point where she's saying that this happened to her over and over and over again, where she was preyed on by men sexually. And I don't know that she was necessarily, it could be seen two different ways. It could be seen that she was preyed on by men sexually, or it could be seen that they had the money for the pussy, so she had the pussy for the money. You understand what I'm saying? Like Phaedra said. Okay? Because Porsha described her encounter with R.Kelly as manipulative, and she said she felt like she was under his influence of his control. And she took her butt back up there to Chicago a few more times before she ended it, okay? And she said that she decided to end the relationship after hearing women crying in another room, which made her feel in fear for her own safety. So you just in the room waiting for your turn for him to come in there? You in your mid-20s. You're not a teenager. You're in your mid-20s. From Atlanta. You've done music videos. You have probably been with multiple men at this time. You fly your tail up to Chicago. You get in his room and you wait there for hours for him to come in and do you. And then you hear other women in the other room being crying and stuff. So then she got up out of there. But the whole time you were at his house, you were just sitting up in his room. Like, what made you go back? What made you go back to his home? I guess she still thought he was going to get her, put her on with music. I don't know. But the thing about it is, on top of all that, Porsha went and talked to the FBI about it. The FBI approached her and later she included that in her book as well, and that she said that she talked to the FBI to help other victims of the convicted sex trafficker R.Kelly. Okay. Williams also noted that she had previously kept the experience a secret due to embarrassment, but felt strong enough to finally share her truth as part of her healing process. Then she turned around and married Simon Gobadia, who didn't even have the legal status to be in the United States, and allegedly does not have the money that she thought he had, quit her jobs, ruined her reputation, had her child sitting on his lap, calling him Papa or Poppy or whatever she was calling Pop, asking when is Pop coming home. She said at one point they was laying in the bed together, like Porsha still is in the pursuit of Porsha. She's still in the pursuit of Porsha. But she had, like I said, she had some good PR with those interviews. So in contrast to Porsha's experience, K.Michelle has described a complex romantic past with R.Kelly, revealing in even as late as 2026 that she was in love with him. Yeah. In that interview with Jason Lee, she straight up said that she was in love with him. She considered him a mentor who shaped her musical understanding, helped her understand how to write music, and she said that she did not experience the same physical abuse alleged by others. While acknowledging his mentorship, she recognized his controlling nature and the toxic, dysfunctional environment surrounding him. K.Michelle stated on BET's The Jason Lee Show that Kelly taught her the music business, songwriting, and recording, noting that she was in love with him. She clarified that while she knows of the allegations against him, he did not abuse her, stating, I know, like, no, Rob did not hit me. I didn't go through an abusive relationship. She described her experience as an abuser saved me from an abuser. So she's not discounting that he was an abuser. She's just saying that he was not her abuser. However, he did save her from her abuser. And we all know who that is. And so she, that indicates a very deeply complex relationship, in an intense relationship at that. But despite the controversy, K.Michelle has credits to R.Kelly with helping shaping her understanding of music. R.Kelly even featured K.Michelle in one of his songs, Love Is, from his 2010 album, Love Letter. Okay. K.Michelle has maintained a nuanced stance, acknowledging her personal positive experience with him while not dismissing the experiences of others. Here is a video from years ago. K.Michelle spoke on her relationship with R. Kelly, and this was right after, or right when everything was going down with him and the surviving R. Kelly and all of that. Watch this.
Now, I'm sure you've also heard a lot of the stories from a lot of the women, and in many cases, underage women that were accusing him. Like our past guest, we actually had Geronda Pace on the show, who have come forward also saying that he is controlling and has taken advantage of them. So what are your thoughts about this?
That gets kind of tricky for me because I see it from two different perspectives. I see it as, this is my mentor. He taught me everything I know about recording, about how to write, the importance of just doing music. And you want to have loyalty for that, but at the same time, I was the girl who was saying something happened to me, and the world told me that it didn't happen. And so when I'm looking on the blogs and I see these girls telling their stories, and women are all up under these comments like, that didn't happen. Oh, she lying. It breaks my heart because I was once that girl, like, somebody know the truth. Nobody gonna take up for me. So it's left me in a very, funny place. People have asked, this is like really the first place I'm speaking about it. I got out of the situation. It was something I think that has affected how I thought of myself and how I love men. And, I was able to get out of it. So all I can say is to make sure you watch when you tell somebody a specific event didn't happen to them, because they could be really going through something. So I'm not here to say if those girls did he do that, whatever. All I know is that, everything isn't always what it seems, especially in the music business.
Well, have you kept in touch with him at all?
After I left, he's so hilarious. After I left, he said, ain't nobody gonna date you but Prince and Michael Jackson. And I said, what? And he was like, Prince, he like white women. He ain't gonna date you. Ain't nobody gonna date you or deal with you or understand your mind. And that's Michael Jackson, and that's my friend.
Wow.
Yeah, like, that was, some of the stuff that I would hear and things like that. So I've tried to maintain a, how are you? I hope that you're okay, because he was one of the few people that believed in my voice.
Yeah.
And, I've tried to remain
amicable. And
Well, you know what? We loved having you here.
Thank you so much for being so honest.
We wish you well, okay? You can come back anytime. And I see you getting emotional.
Y'all, K.Michelle actually broke down crying after that. So that was years ago, you guys. Let me go ahead and read this little copyright act real quick so they don't take my little video down. So the copyright disclaimer under Section 107, the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use. under Section 106, under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Okay, so we are definitely watching this for research and criticism and comment. Okay, so let's just make that clear. That's where that last clip came from. The first clip I showed was from, I don't know who that one was from, the interview with Porsha, but then there was Carlos King from Reality with the King podcast. So y'all can go watch the full video there. Shout out to them for those clips. And then you guys, I want to show y'all this one last clip so you guys can see how K.Michelle feels about R.Kelly today. And this is the thing too, you guys. So this interview with Jason Lee, I feel like was K.Michelle's way of getting ahead of the story and kind of explaining her storylines for the season too. And in that interview with Jason Lee, she actually mentioned her relationship with R. Kelly and that she loved him. So it's like the fact that she's mentioning that and talking about that in 2026 while interviewing with him about her experience becoming a Real Housewife makes me feel like this story by Media Takeout is probably true. Porsha and K.Michelle are beefing over freaking R. Kelly. Watch her feelings today on R. Kelly. They have not changed much since the feelings she had a few years ago. Watch this.
Were you and R. Kelly ever intimate?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love him.
Really? Have you ever said that?
I loved Robert Kelly. I loved him.
Like loved in love? Mm-hmm. Really?
I loved him.
The only question I have for you with R. Kelly is, have you written him a letter? And if so, no?
You being shady. Are you being
He's
shady?
in prison.
No.
No, because the
his
one
team
thing.
has called me.
Wait, can I say the one thing you said on that interview?
Okay, tell me. Let's go.
What about all the mothers that was in the kitchen cooking? That question has yet to be answered.
Mothers and people should be held accountable. I do.
Should Sparkle go to prison?
Absolutely. I saw this whole blog that was saying that he beat me up so bad and that I took that and no, Rob didn't hit me. I didn't go through an abusive Rob.
What's your truth?
My truth with Robert Sylvester Kelly, Robert Kelly always saw me as nothing. I might have loved him, but he didn't see me as nothing more as motivation for writing. I wasn't the woman he wanted, even though I wanted him.
Did you?
I did. Robert is absolutely, completely wrong in the things, but those people around him never corrected him. Mm-hmm. That's not an excuse, Jason, because I am a woman advocate. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm gonna get in there for a woman. If you tell me a man did something to you, okay, we ride it done.
Is Drea Kelly a victim?
Absolutely not. Drea Kelly, if you wanted snow, he had a whole team come bring you snow.
Were you and R. Kelly ever intimate?
So what? Who cares if he had snow, if she wanted snow? You think because he was giving his wife everything she needed or everything she wanted material wise, that that's an excuse or that gives you guys permission to go screw her husband and she's not a victim? Like, I thought that was really, really cold, right? But K.Michelle done made it very clear, baby. She loved R. Kelly. She loved R. Kelly. So imagine her saying, I love that man. And Porsha saying, that man abused me. I'm a survivor. I'm a victim. And then the whole mama's in the kitchen cooking thing was Miss Diane in the kitchen. Y'all think Miss Diane was in R. Kelly kitchen cooking while Porsha was waiting in the room? To be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised because Miss Diane didn't seem to have much of a warning or anything to say about Mr. Simon Gobadia. And I can remember a clip when Porsha was laying on the floor with her leg up in the air telling her mama why she wanted to get pregnant by Dennis, and it was because he had money. And then she said in her last interview with Carlos King, that interview with Carlos King, pretty much that, yeah, she was taught to marry up, you know, and talked about her pedigree. Your pedigree was laid up in the room waiting on R. Kelly to come in the room. How embarrassing. How embarrassing. You come from a pedigree. Your grandfather was a civil rights leader, and his granddaughter done flew her ass to Chicago to go lay up in the room and wait for somebody to come in there and give her turn. His granddaughter admitted on television that she was humping everybody that came to the house, cousins, boys, girls, whoever. but she was taught to marry up. She the prize, right? I'm not saying Porsha's not a beautiful woman, and I'm not saying that Porsha's grandfather didn't do what he did and that she doesn't have a pedigree, but that does not mean she's not trashy. You know, she's funny, but she's not a respectable woman. I can't see but she's pretty enough for a man to still take her serious. You know, she's pretty enough for a man to still take her serious. And I don't think that Porsha has a evil heart or anything like that. I just think that she was raised that pretty is the plan. I think pretty is the plan. And whoever thinks she's pretty enough to pay her for the pool and they had the coins, she gonna be ready to warp or warp into whatever they want her to be. Whether that's a Stepford wife, whether that's a freak, whether that's a jet-setting partner to travel all over the world and be his African princess, or that's somebody's girlfriend and it's a woman. You know, you the femme to the stud. Whatever it is, I think Porsha's just ready to do that, right? So I don't know if Porsha has ever found herself. But for her to be sticking to this story that she was a victim of R.Kelly, and for K.Michelle to have a different experience, it would explain why K.Michelle has not let this shit go and why she called Porsha a bimbo and all of that stuff, right? Because you know how they say when you're arguing about the shoes on the floor, it's really about something bigger than that. There is no way that they're arguing about her asking Porsha that question. They arguing about this ninja right here fighting over R.Kelly. That's what they're doing. Porsha and K.Michelle are fighting over R.Kelly. It don't have nothing to do with the question about the miscarriage unless Porsha knows something we don't know from back in the day. Maybe between K.Michelle and R.Kelly. Who knows? Maybe it struck a nerve or it was a trigger because she thinks that Porsha knows more of her business than Porsha really knows. Who knows? I'm not sure. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Do you guys believe this story that they fighting over R. Kelly? Because let's be honest, the timelines do kind of coincide. Porsha claims she was messing with him in 2007. K.Michelle was featured on an album and a song with him in 2010. It took a minute to make that album and to get it out and all of that. Maybe not 3 years, but who's to say that they didn't meet before that? Or you know, just who knows? Who knows? It was definitely around the same time. But at the end of the day, neither one of y'all have anything to say. And you need to both swallow your pride, chalk it up, and close the door on it because he was a married man and both of y'all was dead ass wrong. And that's what it is. Neither you can't be no victim, and you need to stop saying you was in love with somebody's husband, K.Michelle. Okay? Porsha can't be the victim of a married man, and when she was laying her butt, flew to Chicago and laid her butt in the room for hours, on multiple occasions, for her turn to get the sex. And K.Michelle, you can't be saying you was in love with somebody's husband because he was a married man. So both of y'all wrong. And I don't feel sorry for either one of you. And it would not be surprising if these bimbos was fighting over R. Kelly. Let me know what y'all think in the comments, you guys. Again, my name is Tanya. This is Sweet Tea. Thank you for joining me and sipping with me for this edition. And I hope to see you next time. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and leave me a comment or two, you guys. Let's get this video in the algorithm. I appreciate you guys watching and sipping with me. Until next time, from my sweet to your screens. Peace out, beautiful people.